Well, I usually say it's like it's there's definitely like a strong folk and pop element to it. Like there's still songs to it, but it has a I think people always find it has a very cinematic quality to it. And there's something about when you listen to the music that I make that it kind of makes it your soundtrack to your life a bit. And I feel as much as there's like piano and soft stuff, there's all sorts of different styles. It's not really a style of music. It's just but always has a certain kind of sensation to it that accompanies it. And it's kind of like I can go anywhere in the world and I'll have fans because it's kind of wide music at the same time, bizarre and age wide as well. Like our fans go from like anywhere from like really young, like I'll get messages from like 8 year olds playing piano to like 60 year olds. It was, so it has a wide reach in a weird, in a strange way that I don't totally understand, but it just does. Little moments, all the electronics was like one live take. I really like that about it, and I just really like the lyrics. I love that photo. It's based on Vivian Meyer, the photographer, and I would just look at the photos and kind of get inspired by words and the little stories she tells. So I really appreciate that about that tune. So I think that's my favorite moment of the whole album is that song. And it's kind of sounds unique and interesting, and I've never heard that kind of sound before, so I like that about it. Clearly, that's like coming out of a COVID chapter, but I guess the thing I try to accomplish on that record was like just a real feeling of giving someone company, like as if I was sitting right beside them in that way, and that feeling to the record. And also from a lyrical point of view, I know I was reading a lot of like Virginia Woolf to like Dennis Johnson and just different stuff. So I feel like lyrically I've gotten better and better as I got older. Just one thing I've noticed that I'm a lot more proud of myself. So I really love the lyrics of that record. I find them really fun. I don't know, I kind of think it's a bit of a blanket, that record. I feel like it's kind of like putting a blanket on. And I guess that's what I needed at the time when I made the record. So I guess it just feels like that. I guess that's the best way to describe it to me. But our show is quite different than our records. Our show we don't like we don't stay in one album. We just make a set list that's really fun to play and depending on the room. And the show has a lot of it's quite an energetic show. I think people would assume it's really kind of quiet. It's actually pretty pretty intense musically. There's like a string quartet, there's a lot of electronics live, and it's also like the people on stage are all really wonderful musicians. So I think even if you weren't like a fan of our music, you would go to the show and you'd probably really enjoy it just because it's kind of a pretty fun, unique concert with a lot of kind of twists and turns. And people generally like our concerts more than our recordings. I just like making music at all time. Right now, I'm with my friend Charlotte. Hi, Charlotte. Say hi. Charlotte Cadin. She's a singer, and we're all in. I just constantly work. I just really like it. So any excuse I have to make some noise, I'll take it. To be honest, and just really enjoy it. So it was about like it's if you were a message, you left yourself underneath someone's door, and you tell them that you in that message kind of goes and gets the person never opens it and it gets lost on the couch and then it gets lost on the bookshelves but in the song is about like when it's time though and you find me when it's the right time, open me when it's time. When it went viral I was so damn surprised. I was like, come on, you gotta be kidding me. And then it got more and more viral and I was like, Jesus. It's all the songs that do really well for me, like To Build a Home is the same thing, or Great Escape. There's songs that like I enjoy making these songs. They happen every once in a while, but I never think much of them. Somehow those pieces translate to people in a way that I don't necessarily understand or want to understand, and I appreciate it. But it's hard to know. There's other songs like there's I could picture like Man Like You or Here Comes the River that are songs or Lighthouse that I find in that vein even better than that song. But so you don't really understand why certain songs do things, but they have a life of theirs. They have a life of their own, and they go out in the world and then they come back and tell me all the stories, and I'm like, no, that's crazy. How'd you get there? Well, I do think so. A lot of people will have the idea that my music's sad, and I like couldn't strongly more disagree. I like it's very rare I'd want to make a sad lyric. In general, when I write, I'm looking to raise the chin, not lower the chin. And I always write from a optimistic point of view. And sometimes I feel like people when they hear the music from far, like, oh, it's quiet, so it's sad. But I feel very strongly that quiet does not mean sad. I feel quiet just means reflective. And I find in the modern day, we often confuse quiet for being sad. And I feel like it's a grave mistake. So a lot of times in the music that I make, because it's quiet moments, it always gets under my skin when people think it's sad. I'm like, I never feel sad when I make music. it makes me feel good. You know what I mean? So I guess that's, and also a big thank you to everybody who listens because it's pretty spoiled. I wake up in the morning and make noise for breakfast, and I really enjoy that. So I deeply appreciate everybody who listens to my music and stuff. So I guess that would be my message. I do like really enjoy the South a lot. Like when I get to Atlanta, because I feel like when you come from Canada, you have like such a fixed idea about what it is. And then when you're actually in the South, when you're in Atlanta, and even when you go more south, it's a very surprising place, like full of magic in a lot of ways. And it's also, you notice playing music in the South has a really special feel to it. Most of the music we play comes from, is somewhat inspired from the South. So it's a bit normal, I guess, to some extent. I remember staying in this really crazy hotel downtown though, where it was like this really strange building. It was a pretty cheap hotel. It was pretty trashy looking, crazy, but it was adventurous. And there was like some crazy diner attached to it. I can't remember what the name was, but I definitely remember being like, oh, I'm in Atlanta. This is cool. I was like, all right. It's like when you travel a lot, you can see all the buildings in the world. And after a while, you don't care what buildings look like, but you'll remember like the people you work with during the day, like the staff and the soundman. And do you get to ask stories about the city or you meet people after? Like that's the things you remember. And generally my feeling of Atlanta was like I met like really lovely people. I've always have good memories of Atlanta. So that's kind of what I hold. I'm much more of a people person than a building people. And I just find the South as a mystical place. You know what I mean?